Hello. Well, I wanted to talk about kind of touchy subjects actually. Um, and it's about your bed sheets. I know, right? I was talking with one of our Patreon members. She was going through a bit of a tough time with the energies. And I began talking to her about when you should and shouldn't change your bed sheets. And I know, right? Crazy story. Now, this came to me. Let me go back a little bit before I talk about what is important about this and why it's even something you would utilize for your ascension. I know, your bed sheets, but this is super important. So, quite some years ago now, I was in the spiritual journey. So, I was aware and observing and able to ask spirit, okay, what's in this for me, right? Why is this subject coming up? And able to not react the way I ordinarily would. So going back, I don't know, 2014, 15, 16, I really couldn't tell you when. But years ago, I used to be a party planner with educational toys. And one of the ladies was having a barbecue and decided to invite some of these past ladies. None of us do this. The business doesn't even exist anymore. But it was wonderful to have this little reunion. So there was 12 of us, I think, 6 couples, and everyone had their partner and so forth. Anyway, we'd all had our barbecue around this big table. And one of the subjects that came up from one of the ladies, who I always found to be extremely judgmental, let me tell you, it's her way or the highway attitude. Her daughter had moved back in her mid-20s, etc., moved back into the house for whatever the reasons may be, cannot remember. And she was going off about the fact that she had had an argument with her daughter that morning about she needed to change the sheets, that she'd been in them, they were filthy, they needed to be changed. She was very verbal about this to us. It was a passionate subject. But when it probed, like, how long has she been in the sheets? A week. A week. Now, we all get this thing of, oh, yeah, you're supposed to change your sheets, your towels, weekly, monthly, whatever whatever your story is, regularly, like whatever. Most of us don't. Truth be told, a lot of us don't. And that's okay. All right. Obviously, you're the one living in it. Who cares? But she was adamant. You're in my house. You have my rules. You have to change your sheets. I can't believe you've been living like that out when you were flatting or whatever you were doing. Blah, 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 blah. Bang, bang, bang. Now, I looked at the entire table. Oh, by the way, first my husband gave me that look across the table, that look that said, do not say anything. Because I'm the sort of person who'd go, oh, we'd be lucky if we change our sheets monthly. Whoa, okay. And he was like, don't say anything. But that's how she made everyone feel. We were all judged. We were all feeling shame. We were all feeling like we were wrong. And she was sitting there with all her righteous energy pouring all over the table, telling us that she was right and her daughter was atrocious. And the underlying thing was, don't you even challenge me on this subject, which I nearly wanted to do, right? I wanted to put my attitude as an empathic was to put everyone back at ease and go, hey, you're not the only ones. If you're doing it fortnightly, well done you. But I saw all the faces. I watched and I thought, not a single person here changes their sheets weekly. No one's, if they do, and that's not really the issue, it's the judgment that she's pouring on her daughter and the spite in it all. It was interesting, right? Now, later in this barbecue, when I left that to kind of go, I'm going to ask Spirit about why that was brought up for me. The other part of this was I was talking to her and having not seen her for years, was saying, how are you, etc. And she had been diagnosed with, now let me write, I've written this down, hemochromatosis, which is where you absorb and hold on to too much iron. So she was literally rusting. And she herself said that. My blood rusts. It stores up in her liver. her heart, her pancreas, and her bloodstream. And she literally rusts, goes orange, has breakdowns of her body because all that oxidization of this iron, etc. So she'd been having and was feeling a lot better, and on top of it now, she was been having to give blood, or she had, the only way is to take blood regularly, and it puts your body back at the right whatever. But this is a genetic disease, so it's only recently when a while ago sort of thing, when another story that I'll tell in a minute about buying some yellow bed sheets, I looked this up because it made me remember this experience, this time frame. And this hemochromatosis, they've actually found a Neanderthal woman, or Neolithic, sorry, let me get it right, Neolithic woman, so 5,000 years ago, who had this gene mutation, because it's actually a gene mutation. And apparently, if your parent has a mutated gene and the other parent has a mutated gene, you will end up having the problem. However, if you just have one parent, you might get the gene and it may get passed on, but until there's two genes that make it happen, right? That's what they found. Well, anyway, they'd also found a 4,000-year-old early Bronze Age man in a bog near Belfast somewhere. He too had this mutation. So this mutation's very old. And when they looked at the time frames of these people that were very nomadic and so forth, and some of what else has been gone on in when they do the dirt measurements and the tree measurements and all the things, they were able to put together that there was a scarcity of meat. There wasn't many animals available because of the kind of weather and stuff. So perhaps they're saying that this gene was out of scarcity, that the body was trying to compensate and hang on to as much iron as possible. But these mutations of this gene had then remained and have been passed through. True story, not true story, don't know. That's not my point. Just interesting. Because it was interesting to me that she was sick, okay? And I could see how judgmental she was, how much she sits in lack of scarcity, because I know her from before, and I know the greed that was in her with the way she worked with people and with money and with sales and so forth, the control issues, rigid rules, and I think she grew up like that. And she was obviously passing that on to her children. So this mutation goes back through genealogy, that's the word, through generations. And she obviously has come through that. So very interesting that the energy and emotions and traumas all come back into the DNA, right? So the interesting thing that I got with this, well, I went home back then and I went, why? Okay. So apart from me wanting to go into my empathic style and make everyone feel good, and my husband looking at me and going, don't you dare do that. And so everyone kept their mouth shut. But I knew that everybody was like, well, we don't do it every week or, whatever. And just the feeling that she put out and what she made everyone feel or what came up, right? Everything's for our benefit on some level. If we see it that way, if we dive into the spirited level of us, if we dive into the divine pathway and our evolution, what is it that I need to know here? And what was brought to my attention was about rigidity, about these so-called feeling dirty, feeling wrong, feeling shame because of my sheets, because we're told that, oh, if you stay in your sheets too long, you're going to get this problem, that problem, whatever, etc. It's all from outside. None of that's from inside. So when you check inside, do I stay in these sheets? Now, if you're on your ascension path and you're doing the shadow work and the energy work and you're bringing in new energies and you're upgrading your system, shedding those old energetics, you actually are going to have a particular pathway that will, on occasion, and this is where it began for me, to check in when it's time to change the sheets. I had a different priority around when it was time to change the sheets because I was sitting in certain energies. So downloads of codes were coming in from wherever. I was releasing stuff. My husband was doing the same in his own versions, his own time frames, but I would always have to check in. I would suddenly get this, you need to change the sheets because I needed to change the energy up, or it's okay to change the sheets now. Any day now that you want to change the sheets, that's fine, because that healing and those codes that were impregnated into your system that you then come lay down in at night and continue the process with, they have finished. You've absorbed them, or the energy that you needed to sit in has been released, or the structure that other beings had come in and set up for me as a kind of cellular changer or chamber even, is finished. So all these things on the other side of the story, it prioritized why I changed sheets and when I changed sheets. Now, there are occasions where I feel like I really need to still change the sheets, but they're saying to me not. And it may be because my husband's going through something. And it might be, I'm like, first of all, I'm like, well, is that affecting me? And if it is, they'll get me to put a bubble around myself, and his stuff's his stuff, my stuff's my stuff, and we're in our own kind of version of things. But quite often, because I'm the leader in this, and he's a sort of silent partner to a lot of this, he's not one to talk this stuff about. I know there's a lot of done on other levels, not just necessarily fully embodied and not necessarily spoken at this stage, right? Or ever, maybe that's his journey. But I would know that he was coming into stuff at the moment, and I just need to give him a day or two because he's got codes or whatever, or a chamber or this or that, whatever it was. And so don't change the sheets till then. The bottom line here that I'm giving as a new perspective, and I said was a bit kind of controversial in bringing this forward because it goes against the grain of the so-called logic, the so-called health, the so-called ways you should and shouldn't do things, and what has been researched and what has been found. But for me, prioritizing my ascension and what my spirit needs and what is going on energetically, my energetic path of evolvement, is number one. And that was brought to me. And I'm thankful for that experience. No need to see her again. She's not really my cup of tea. But in that moment, that one-off out of the blue sort of spacing that brought this to my attention. And it was great that I was able to not react, to just observe, and to come back later in my own personal experiences and ask spirit, what is it about this? Firstly, I healed a lot of the shame. Like, I'm not going to be in shame about how someone else operates. I'm not going to be in scarcity when I looked up, what this is and what it's about, is because obviously, there's repercussions for her in the way that she operated. But again, back to the sheets and the energy, it was all about when to change them. So sometimes I can change sheets within a week, and other times it can be within 5 weeks, 6 weeks. I don't know. I don't even count it anymore. They get changed when they get changed. Now, that brings me to a recent experience late last year, when I just woke up in the middle of the night with the thought, I need yellow sheets. I need a new quilt cover. And I didn't actually get bed sheets. I got a quilt cover and white bottom sheet. But I suddenly was like, I'm on the hunt for a yellow quilt cover. And it just was out of the blue, but I knew I needed it. Now, knowing where I go with things now and what I do with people in my membership, we connect to the innate intelligence of bliss. And bliss is the yellow spectrum, all the different versions of the yellow and whatever it means. We work with bliss to release what is not bliss and to come into our own soul signature weaving of what is bliss, the yellow energy that comes off of us. I see it as yellow, but it is much deeper than that. It is not your regular yellows. But yeah, the way it works, right, is this bliss. So I was needing to lay in bliss. It was part of the process that I needed. Seeing my sheet, seeing this lovely yellow bed every day, et cetera, et cetera. So I actually went on the hunt for yellow sheets, went to a couple of the bed shops, the Bed Bath and what names and things like that. found a couple, but they were too mustardy or they weren't really, no, not feeling it. And spirit will always go, okay, this is a thing for you. Go and look for it. Go and find the right one. We'll find the right one, you know. And I was prepared that it may not come that day I went looking, but it did eventually. I walked into a department store and went to their sheets and bedding section and was wandering along. And lo and behold, was one set, it's perfect size for my bed, one set of yellow sort of daffodils, different yellows with white and fresh and alive and not a horrible mustard inside. I'm not a mustard person. And it was quite interesting to go, whoa, here is one set. There are no others here. It's like the last one. It's reduced to half price. So I saved considerably on it. It was very high quality sheets, you know, the count on it and everything. And so they were luxurious for me and great pricing. Spirit took me to that. I found a bargain on top of it and something I loved. These other yellow ones, I wasn't prepared to necessarily go, well, I'll just get yellow because you're telling me to get yellow. If I don't feel the bliss in it, if I don't feel the joy, and if it doesn't feel passionate about the colouring, then what was the point of getting it, right? So I love it. Now, recently, we don't use these sheets all the time. We have 2 or 3 different varieties that we put on. Recently, well, with the lead up to the Lion Gate, I ended up with Ascension flu. Very sick with coughs and vomiting and sweats and the whole bit. And we had our dark blue variety on, which is integrity, the blue spectrums, interestingly. And it was all about me coming into the integrity of my own body embodiment and stepping up where we're going with this Lion's Gate, which is now that we've stepped up into being more authentically us and following particular pathways that are more aligned to us, right? So we've got a bit of a leveling up has happened for most of us or is in the process. And so, yeah, I got to this point where after the sweats for a certain couple of days, I then got, you need the yellow bliss. And I didn't have the energy. My muscles were killing me to change the sheets. I had to actually ask my husband to do that for me. And I want those yellow ones on. He doesn't argue. He just goes along, doesn't even ask because deep down inside, he doesn't really want to know. But anyway, sure enough, put those yellow ones on. He did exclaim that night, oh, these feel amazing, right? These fresh, beautiful, yellow, bright sheets. And for me, I'd moved in the ascension process now where I was getting these aches. So I was very fatigued and sore in my bones. My legs hurt for a day, and then my neck hurt for a day, or my shoulders, or my back, or my arms, or whatever it was. That I went through another week of just getting my strength back and then having this kind of aches go through my body. But I had the yellow for that week. So, point of this story, don't one, be shamed by someone else's rules, okay, or how they perceive things, no matter what sort of energy they're putting off. And if that triggers you and brings things up in you, then those are the things to be healed. So go through the process and see exactly what that is bringing up for you. Secondly, utilizing your sheet changes, right? Because there's an energetic creation going on in your bedtime sleep, in your experience, in your shedding, in your receiving, in your change ups, all of those things. And then thirdly, the colors, being cocooned and knowing that you're not just connecting to blue or yellow, you're connecting to this entire spectrum of bringing in the innate intelligence of bliss into your body system, into your energetics, becoming more and more aligned to the form of bliss that is your soul signature, the form of integrity that is your soul signature. It is bringing that energy in to release things that are not within your integrity if it's blue, or in your sovereignty if it's red, so forth. So just wanting you to feel into that kind of nature around things. Now, on the other side of this coin, or no, on a side note to this, another controversial thing is I don't shower again, because I can go for a couple of days or 3 days, maybe even longer, and I will check in. Is it okay for me to have a shower? No. And the reason will be, I mean, I use essential oils, I do top and tail, like, give myself all clean, but it's not about cleanliness here. Sometimes there's certain things going on with your cellular shedding and upgrading. There's certain things going on with your energies. There's certain things going on with the pheromones themselves that are going through your body or being received to your body. There's a whole process happening. And sometimes we become quite reliant because we know on another level that water can wash away. I'll just get back into the codes. Now, we can be getting water through the neighborhood system. And if we haven't upgraded our house system so that the water comes in at higher light grades and cleans out, we're actually just reprogramming with the neighborhood matrix. Okay, the codes that have been put into the waters from there. So that's a whole nother story, and I'll possibly will do a video. Put in the comments if you'd like a video on that one. But otherwise, yeah, these are the things to be thinking about. Now, I'm just going to do a quick 5-minute bring you into bliss for my members. Okay, so you will notice that this is about to cut off if it is in YouTube. But in my Patreon, it will continue with a meditation. So if you would like this meditation to connect into bliss, then please come over to patreon.com, Megan Catherin Enlightenment, and you will find that you can join for free. And this video will be there with a continuation of the meditation. So thank you to the YouTubers. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you found this interesting, besides entertaining. Funny old world we live in, right? And just to rethink some of how and why you, go about some of your household cleanliness and your physical cleanliness. What is it you're really connecting to? What else is going on? Can you start tuning into that? Because that's the priority if you're looking for evolution, ascension, health. True health, right? Comes from the light energies first. Okay, so thank you very much. Now, for my Patreon members, I would love to give you this meditation.